as we look at Luke's Gospel, chapter 5, verses 1 through 11 together. The text is in the description box under this video. Let's just whiz through the text as fast as we can to get onto the theology and the implications for the way in which we live life. The first thing to note is that Luke's Greek is excellent and it's complex. So he uses the beauty of ancient Greek to produce beautiful sentences. Greek is a case-based language and English isn't. So this gives the translators problems that they can resolve in various different ways. And so the English text is never a completely accurate representation of the Greek. And this is important, I think, as we come to the beginning, to realize in verse 2, for example, that Jesus is standing, which is a very active form, not passive. Luke is encouraging the reader to be present in the event rather than to view the event. This is something that many years later Ignatius will encourage his followers to do, to really enter into the text, to place yourself there, to imagine yourself there, even to be one of the characters. To translate that into English directly would make for poor English, and so we get things put further into the past and in a more passive voice. In verse 1, we hear the people have gathered to hear the word of God. And in verse 3, Jesus boards Simon's boat and they move out from the shore so that he can address the people. They can sort of sit like an amphitheatre on the slope of the beach while he addresses them. In verse 4, they move out into deeper water. In verse 5, we have Simon, prevaricating a little because Jesus is encouraging them now to fish when they've spent all night fishing with no results. But Peter notes, "Yet at your word, I will do it." And this obviously connects with the earlier formulation, hearing the word. The letting down of the nets, zalzo in Greek, is more than letting down. It has inside it a sense of slackening. So the nets are sort of, in a way, untied as they're lowered from a height to a lower place, deeper. So a loosening and a deepening. Verse 6, we have the nets breaking, and one can imagine the fishermen viewing that just as more work that's going to come their way. In 7, there is so much catch that help has to be asked for, and the help is asked for and embraced. We hear also the boats are nearly sinking, and again in Greek this is plunge into the deep. The word sinking is the plunging into the deep. In 8, Simon Peter says to go away from me because I'm a sinner. In 9, we have amazement. The people were amazed at the catch. But in English that has a sort of wonder, almost excitement, a positive sort of vibe to it. In the Greek, it's much more a sense of stunned. It's not positive or negative. It's just stunned by it. In 10, we heard Jesus speaking as the angel speaks to the shepherds, "Do not fear. From now on, you're going to be catching people." And then in 11, they left all and followed him. As we wind our way back through this account, let's look more theologically. The word to follow, ἀκολουθέω, is really important in Christian theology. Charlemagne has written considerably on it and calls this ἀκολουθέω reasoning. It's immediate and non-reflective. And Solomon describes it as the feeling of absolute dependence prior to knowledge and prior to doing or action. I would call this acting out of the heart's wisdom or the deep consciousness prior to thinking. So this following is not emotional and it's not rational in the way we normally use that. It's a deep impulse. That theological reflection is not held in the translation of the Greek so much as in the interpretation that we place on the word follow, which is normally exactly how we think of it, as following something around. This is deeper than that. It's easy to be distracted by the fish haul, and certainly it has a big implication for Peter, who understands this somehow as an insight into his own sinful nature, his lack of godliness. And the episode is followed at the end by people following Jesus. So it's had a huge impact, and we place that really on the event of all the fish. There's something else going on here, though. We have Jesus preaching to people, including fishermen, outside, so not in the synagogue this time, and not with a scroll, just in the natural environment. And as he moves the boat and goes into the boat and a little way away from the shore, he's past that limnus there as well, from land to sea. There's a sense that this word of God is not contained by buildings or writings. The going out into deeper water, the slackening and letting down of nets into the deep, or from on high to lower to go deeper, and the boats nearly sinking, plunging into the deep, all indicate the somewhat scary nature of getting involved with Jesus. There's going to be a transcendence of what we think is a good idea, what we think we know, and there's going to be a slackening, lowering, going deeper and deeper. In the event, the nets aren't really able to contain all these fish and start to break. And importantly, we have the words of Jesus telling Peter, don't worry, have no fear, as you let go of all of this, as you slacken your net and let go of your own ideas about what can and even should happen. Have no fear about what you're seeing now, because from now on you're going to be catching people. I think sadly the takeaway is often we need a really good net to catch lots of people to make them into Christians. I don't think that is at all what Jesus was saying. Looking at our own inability to control the world or understand the world fully, to go out all night fishing with great efforts and catch nothing, and then to catch more than can possibly be dealt with, and to break the nets, to be at a place where the whole enterprise is sinking, in the face of which we are stunned. I'm certain you've been stunned by Jesus' words, insights, visions, stunned by the presence of God, stunned by the silencing of the mind and the opening of the heart. And if we examine this, it leads to following. This is the true follower of Christ, the true hearer of the word of God. Ἀκολουθέω. Absolute dependence that comes from something prior to knowledge and prior to our actions. So stand with him on the beach or in the boat. Open the heart's wisdom really deep. Leave all the junk behind and follow him.